Hey Modern Band, so let's look at the G major chord. For some of you, G major may have been the first chord you learned on guitar. It was the first chord that I learned on guitar. And it's useful in a ton of songs. A lot of songs that you play on guitar are in the key of G major, which means you use G major a lot. The problem with G major is that it's not the easiest chord to learn the shape of and to get to and from when you're first starting out, which is why we didn't start learning it with the G major chord. But the day has arrived for us to learn this chord if you haven't already. So looking at the diagram here, use these three fingers like we do with most of our chords. Our first finger is on the second fret of the A string. Our second finger is on the third fret of the E string. So just find those two right there. First finger on the second fret of the A string, and second finger on the third fret of the E string. Take a moment, find those, find that position. Now, then we're going to take our third finger, our ring finger, and we're going to put it on the same fret as our middle finger, all the way down at the bottom. So on the low E string, string 6, and on the high E string, string 1, we have the same fret. So it's the same pitch, it's just a couple octaves different. So here we are on string 5, right? String 5 with our first finger, fret 2, string 5. Then we have my two outside strings, string number 6 and string number 1, two outside strings with my middle finger and my ring finger. That's our G major chord. So it's just 3 strings, and 2 of them are the same fret, just away from the ends of the guitar. You may have also, depending on who your guitar teacher was and how you learned, you may have learned to play this chord in the same shape, but with your fingers 2, 3, and 4. That's totally fine. I'm completely fine with you playing this chord that way. There's a number of situations in which that would be easier, like when you're going back and forth between, G and G7, or if you're learning that chord in, various sort of, bar shapes, that's fine too. For our purposes though, you can use either one. I'm going to be demonstrating with these 3 fingers because for most people who are starting off, these are the easiest fingers to use. But it's up to you if you want to use one versus the other. So again, second fret with your first finger on the A string, and then your lowest E, string 6, on the third fret, and your highest string, E, the E1, first string on E, for fingers 2 and 3. Make sure that you have that shape. Slide that a little closer to the fret there. That's your shape for the G major chord. Check each finger. Make sure there's no buzzing, no muting. If you do have some unintentional buzzing or muting, check your wrist position. Make sure that it's not way out here or way up here, right? You want to keep it as straight as possible. I don't know if you can see from that angle, as straight as possible. You want to use your thumb here to brace the back of the guitar. Now for me, in order to get this finger, my third finger, way down here, I do have to angle my hand just a little bit more out this way than I otherwise would, because otherwise I'll get these fingers flat out on the strings and they'll be muting things that I don't want them to mute. So you want to make sure that you're playing with the tips of your fingers, as always, where the string is coming into contact like that. Okay, and like I said, for this particular chord, for me personally, I do have to angle my wrist just a little bit more than I would for some of the others to get my correct finger position. If I do that, it's just a little bit harder to not accidentally mute that string in there, the D there, okay? So continue working on that, and then once you get that down, we can start putting it together with some chord changes.